work is very hard edge in terms of the construction and the composition of the work. I like to work abstractly, but using geometrical shapes and architectural shapes. But this particular exhibition, I was really influenced by a couple of areas, really. One was some Greek mythology I'd recently been reading, which was about Medusa's golden raft. And I looked at some of the classical painters that had done representations of this story in a very formal classical way. But I could see potential there in creating a piece of work. And I was quite inspired by the story to create this work, which was technically a lot of beams breaking up, and the idea of the golden raft appealed to me because I've never seen any abstract work before painting with using gold. So the story, I felt, along with the composition and the finished piece of work, I was very, very satisfied with. What was suggested to me also was to start looking at some of the classical painters and how they tackle things like perspective and creating depth. And it was suggested to me that I look at Uccello's famous painting of the Battle of St. Romano. And I looked at that and I really couldn't understand the perspective, because he used very similar values from the front of his painting right out to the back, although the actual perspective was perfect in the way that he designed and he drew and he used these grids that he formulated. So I tried to recreate that by using a section of the painting, which was all these men on horses engaging in this battle with all these great big lances coming across. So I recreated in an abstract form, very geometrical or architectural, that particular section or scene of that painting, which again I felt was very useful and very successful. I also looked at another piece of work that I showed at this exhibition, was a piece of work that I was quite inspired by a modernist painter, Miro, how he appropriated space in an abstract way. Now, I did something with a very, very open mixed ground, but used some simple geometrical forms as the main part of the composition. Really, I suppose, to experiment and gain some visual inquiry into how just minimal marks, like Miro basically did, to create this kind of welfare or appropriation of space. I like to work in colour. I like depth, because when I start with a blank canvas, I don't like to work two-dimensionally. I like to create that depth. So while my last year at the UEL has really been about working in an abstract way, yes, geometrically and architecturally, but using more of an open ground, certainly working very, very extensively and broadening my knowledge and awareness of colour. But I'm also looking at ways to create depth. I like my work to be a little bit ambiguous. I also like my work to be a little bit illusionistic. But there's many artists that I'm looking at the moment, and moving into our contemporary practice show, I'm currently working on 2, possibly 3 new pieces of work to show in that, which will be pretty much on a similar vein in terms of the architectural or the geometrical forms that I've been using, but really experimenting again with depth and colour and with illusion, and trying to make the whole thing a little bit ambiguous, but also have a story or some narrative behind the work. My background started with painting with sea, land and urbanscape, Um, so I am very interested in architecture, um, and I love nature. I love painting nature. But the abstract side of my work now has taken over because, and it was a little bit accidental really, because I wanted to develop a greater knowledge of colour and how colour works, and also create abstract work with abstract forms that gives me the opportunity to work with this depth that I'm looking for. So, yes, I am influenced by sea, land and urbanscape and architecture because of the perspective I can create through that. Well, if you look at some of the modernist abstract, hard edge abstract painters, people like Frank Stella, Maholi Nagy, Joseph Albers, they painted wonderful hard edge abstract paintings, geometrical paintings, but they were very flat. What I wanted to do was to take their work maybe a stage further and try to create some solid forms. And what really inspired me to take that route is an artist called Al Held, who's an American. He started off as an abstract expressionist, who latterly went on to create this wonderful depth and illusion by using solid geometric forms. Rather than just laying flat on a canvas, he created this depth. And then just when you think you've got inside the painting or the piece of work, there's another plane going on, and then in it goes and more it goes. And it's really an outside looking in process, if that makes sense. I wouldn't call it a philosophy, but I would say that right now, whatever I do today, I'll try to do well. And I kind of live in today at the moment. But yes, I do have some ideas for the future. I want to expand on the shapes and the forms that I'm using and to develop them into something that which actually shows development and progress, if that makes sense. But in terms of a year, 2 years' time, I really don't know. Well, the first thing is, I'm the only guy in it. I'm working with 5 ladies. Well, yeah, but they're all they're great. I mean, we've got in the group. There's 6 of us. We are putting on a show at the Biscuit Factory, which is at Bermondsey. We have 3 of us are painters. 2 are extremely competent printers, and we have 1 lady that is putting on some installation and also some sculpture. The venue I'm pleased with, although it does need a bit of work on before we set up, but it's quite an interesting venue, and it's an industrial building that does have, resonates this white cube type of situation. So the purpose of the exhibition is quite academic, I suppose, really, because it's a module. It's something that we are doing in terms of part of the criteria for our degrees, but it's also really more about actually more than the work that we're showing is our ability to be able to put on a show or curate it in a professional way, if you like, and we will be assessed on that, and that will go towards our accreditations to our degree, and that's really the purpose of the show. Hopefully, when we graduate and that we start going out on our own and working with agents or galleries, that the curating side will be done. But this is an opportunity for us to work our own show from start to finish, and that means, first of all, finding the venue. Secondly, to market, promote, and organise the event. So, yeah, we're going to get people there, and the right type of people there. But also the ability to be able to effectively handle the work and display the work, and that is that can be quite a challenge.